This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's going on, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and my boy Andrew here is going to give us this week's topics.
On this week's episode, we talk about the Pistons winning 7 of their last 8. An effective bench unit.
What?
Hey, Nick, what year is it?
I think we're in 2019. Or is it 2007? I have no idea. Anyways, though, you heard it from Andrew on what this week's topics are going to be. Obviously, we do got quite a bit to talk about. We're gonna try to keep away from diving too much into the games this week because not a lot of games happen. We just got back from the All-Star break. I think we only had what, 3 games? 2?
3 games this week.
3 games this week. Mm-hmm. So there's really
Wednesday,
not
Friday,
right. Wednesday, Friday, yes. So there's really not too much to dive in there in terms of
Friday,
recapping
Saturday,
the
Monday.
game.
Wednesday
So we
was
want to
also
just
break.
kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the topics here.
Yeah.
Which
There's a lot
is
more
really
to
going to talk about the games anyways.
Yeah,
so it doesn't even really matter.
talk about
Right.
kind of outside the game.
So let's start off with talking about, them being on the streak that they're on, starting before the All-Star break and then coming into after the All-Star break, really not missing a beat. Winning 7 of the last 8. So, Andrew, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one. What do you make of them the Pistons winning 7 of the last 8? Are they making a playoff push? Are they hitting a stride? What's going on here?
Clearly they're trying to make a playoff push here.
They're now in the 7th seed.
Well, my speculation is, this streak, and then they've won 3 straight right after the All-Star break, too.
Yep.
Right after the All-Star break. This streak coincides almost directly with post-trade deadline.
But the trade deadline, any of the moves they made wouldn't affect much,
this is what
though.
I'm getting at.
Because Svi Mikhailuk has been a scratch the last couple of nights.
This is what I'm getting at here. And a lot of these games, we've seen the bench play better than they've ever played.
That is true.
We've seen, it's kind of coincidentally also come on the heels of Ray Jackson supposedly finally being healthy.
Well,
but
I'll give you
what
this
I wanna
team.
ask you,
I'll give you that before the All-Star break. Post All-Star break, this team looks different than the team that was winning ball games before the All-Star break because it's not Reggie Jackson really leading the way right now. It's other players, and the bench unit specifically has really been
outside of that Hawks game.
Right, the Hawks game Reggie Jackson put was a monster, but the other games 13 points just the other night, I believe. So he's got and not on great shooting numbers either. I think even in the Hawks game he didn't have an excellent shooting number. I think he was. I could be wrong on that, but I know
the Hawks game was 12 of 22.
12 of 22. Okay, so he had an excellent shooting night that night. But the other 2 games, he didn't have very good. He didn't have very good shooting nights. So, but we've seen other players step up into some big time roles.
What I'm getting at here is my gut feeling here is that one, Dwayne Casey tinkering lineups, but there's been an infusion of I don't want to say shooting effectiveness, but at least shooting threats since the All-Star break with Wayne Ellington. Starting and
who really is yet to hit his stride though.
And
he put up 13 points the other night.
Especially Thon Maker off the bench. This is making Stanley Johnson look like addition by subtraction because Thon Maker playing with his bench unit is actually giving Ish Smith a legitimate shooting weapon to at least make the offense run the offense more effectively.
It spaces the floor a hell of a lot more than what they had coming off the bench from the big man spot before. I mean, there's obviously Thon Maker's got the ability to step outside the 3-point arc, so he's able to hit shots from there, which it spreads the floor a lot more. It allows for a little bit more ball movement, which caters to some of these players coming off the bench's game a little bit more. You mentioned Wayne Ellington stepping into the starting lineup, Luke Kennard being a big spark plug coming off the bench for them in terms of his shooting. I mean, he's had a stretch of games now, a small stretch, but a stretch of games where he's scoring the ball.
Yeah.
He's making shots, making threes.
Certainly helps.
And it certainly helps. And then you had the massive game from Ish Smith, which, by the way, that was the first 22 point plus, 9 assists plus game from a Pistons reserve since Will Bynum back in. I sent you the stat earlier. I can't even remember the year. It was like 20.
Will Bynum would have been like 2011, probably.
I think it was 2012, December 28, 2012. Yes, it was first Pistons reserve that had at least 22 points and 9 assists since Will Bynum on December 28, 2012, which I thought that was just...
I used to love Will Bynum.
Will the throw, man.
My guy, dude. My guy. Especially him and Drummond
Will
coming off the bench
Bynumite.
together. Bynumite.
But... Which kind of alarmed me a little bit because that kind of spoke to what has been a major struggle with the Pistons over the last, X amount of years. Bench scoring being a big problem for them. But now it looks like the bench unit is working a little bit with some cohesiveness because they're able to spread the ball. They're not playing 4-on-5 offensively anymore because Stanley Johnson was an absolute black hole on offense. I mean, the guy couldn't shoot to save his life. So they were essentially playing 4-on-5 on that side of the ball and didn't have any kind of true scoring threats outside of Luke Kennard every now and then, who's been in and out of the starting lineup anyways. So you kind of took away any real scoring threat coming off of that bench unit. But now you add one.
And
now
you add 3 threes against the Hawks.
Exactly. He had the game winner.
Yeah.
The game winner against it was was that the Hawks?
The game winner was against the Hawks.
Yes.
Yeah. But, then he had 2 against the Heat. I mean, he's
Yes.
providing 3-point offense that Stanley Johnson could not provide.
He's providing space, and it's allowing for ball movement, which helps guys like Ish Smith, like Luke Kennard, like Wayne Ellington when he's playing with that unit, like a Thon Maker. It provides space on the floor that's tough to defend that they didn't have in that unit prior to the deadline. So the Thon Maker deal is looking like a great one already.
And then
change, he's also helped a lot on defense. He's been very effective on both sides of the ball.
Another change that we've seen is Calderon is effectively out of the rotation.
Yes, which we had hoped and expected. Nothing against Jose Calderon, but he hasn't exactly been the most effective point guard for the Pistons in Ish Smith's absence. It's nice to be able to, even when Reggie and Ish Smith aren't in the ball game, they can go to someone else to control the offense and keep the game flow for a short amount of minutes. It's very short amount of minutes, but Jose Calderon was nothing but a detriment even in that short stint. So definitely, it's another addition by subtraction by not having him on the basketball floor. Could he be a veteran leader? As someone who kind of like a backup quarterback is, they don't really see the field, but there's still kind of there's leadership qualities there to help out the guys on the field. Maybe he could do something like that. Maybe he sees something that Reggie's not going after. He can let him know. Maybe he sees something that Reggie or Ish are doing wrong and they need to correct and adjust. So maybe he can help in that way. But when it came to his play on the floor, he definitely wasn't helping the Pistons in any way. But yes, you're seeing a lot of tinkering with the lineups. Obviously, Dwayne Casey's got some new toys to play with, and he's trying to figure out where they fit best, how to use them. Where can I get the most evenly balanced and not so top heavy scoring that we had prior to the trade deadline and to the All-Star break, and you're really seeing him move some pieces around to try to find that best mix of rotations to get things in, so the Pistons can really hit a comfortable stride here. And inserting Wayne Ellington in the lineup, who really has yet to kind of make a big impact, but he's allowed for guys like Luke Kennard to be relegated to a bench role in a 6-man situation that they may be a lot more comfortable and may be able to be more effective with.
Oh, and also Luke Kennard, I mean, what this has allowed him to do too is, and this is a lot of this is on Casey, he's been scheming now to get Luke Kennard moving more off ball. This he's been moving a lot in screens, pick and rolls.
He's also been using him to facilitate the offense a little bit more too. I've been noticing that.
But this off ball movement for Kennard, it looks like it's helped a lot with his efficiency, with his shooting numbers. And the other guy that I want to talk about on this bench unit, I mean, Langston Galloway finally has a pulse.
Yes.
Because he was just treading water. And by treading water, I mean he was 10 feet underwater and treading 10 feet underwater. But
yes,
he
was non-existent for this team. He was not a plus player for them.
Last 2 games, 17 points, 13 points. He's finally producing. This is something that would be huge if Galloway can actually continue to produce, because Galloway's shooting well below his career numbers. He's shooting well below what he did last year. And if Galloway is suddenly returning to form now, that's another big plus for our bench.
Well, there's no secret in today's NBA. One of the most important things to have is real effective and consistent shooting. That's one of the big reasons the Pistons have struggled the last few years. They haven't had that. And now that they've hit this stride, it looks like they've got that. They've got consistent shooting and plus shooting from guys like Luke Kennard, Thon Maker, Wayne Ellington, Langston Galloway, insert other names here. They're finally getting that consistent shooting from inside out or outside in even that's given them some ability to move the ball. It's allowed Dwayne Casey to look at the lineup and look at the plays in the floor and say, we can simplify things because we're able to hit shots on a moment's notice. And when you simplify your offense in a certain way, it can help a lot, especially with a team that's still trying to figure out how to play together.
Yeah.
So when you simplify things, you're running more pick and rolls as opposed to isolations. You're moving the ball around the perimeter to find your open shot, allowing guys to make the extra pass as opposed to forcing a bad shot. That simplifies things a lot for the guys and takes the pressure off of certain players like Blake Griffin and like Andre Drummond down low. He's not having to create his own shot as much. So it helps everybody out a lot because things are a lot more simple. Just by the eye test. Because I don't have the actual statistics here. I was looking for them, couldn't find them. But from what I'm seeing a lot more pick and roll. I'm seeing a lot more set pick and roll plays, high ball screens, fades, pick and pops, things like that are just simple 1, 2, 3-man offenses that are very effective in today's game just by the nature of how the game is played. And it's worked very well and seemed to really open things up for guys like Griffin, guys like Drummond, guys like Kennard, all the shooters out there, because pick and roll is not just effective for the one and the guy, the picker, the pick and the ball handler. It helps. It also allows guys on the perimeter to have an open shot because you got on a pick and roll. A lot of times you'll see one of those off-ball defenders come in and help, and that's where you see the open shots. That's where you see the extra pass made. So like I said, I don't have the actual statistics, but just from the eye test alone, I'm seeing a lot more pick and roll, and I'm seeing a lot more ball movement, which is really kind of attested to what Dwayne Casey's wanted to do here, which is simplify to just make things easier on everybody on that side of the ball. And it's really, really shown over this last, 8-game stretch, or even especially after the All-Star break, we've seen some guys really hit a stride here.
And the last thing I want to point out here, and this is back to Thon Maker, to me, it feels like the energy that he's been playing with coming off the bench has kind of been contagious to the rest of the bench unit, especially Kennard. I think I've seen the biggest change in Kennard since Thon Maker's.
I would tend to agree with you, yes.
Do you think that a big part of the reason why the bench has been playing so well lately is just they're feeding off Thon's energy?
It's definitely possible. I mean, we talked about this before, having that workman's mentality. Is that something that the rest of the team is going to rally behind?
They've said that he's become a locker room favorite. The team loves him.
And I don't disagree with that at all. We talked about that, I believe it was our last episode when we said, is his workman's mentality embracing the Detroit blue blood mentality, the blue collar ideals, is that something that the rest of the team is going to rally behind? And we said
we're slowly starting to see that come to fruition.
We did say we were kind of hesitant about it. We did say that it's easy to say, yes, I'll agree with you if it were for a guy like Reggie Jackson doing that or Drummond or Blake Griffin doing that, but it's not. It's Thon Maker. He's new. Yeah. He's not a real big impact player.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring it up.
Tough to rally behind something a guy who plays 10, 20 minutes
I wouldn't bring it up
game.
Again if it didn't look like it was
exactly,
but
it does really look like it's come to fruition with Thon Maker. And that bench unit, maybe the starters are still kind of playing their own game, but the bench unit in particular really seems to be rallying around the energy that Thon Maker has brought on both sides of the floor, because he has made a massive impact, not just offensively, but also defensively. He's been a real big-time mainstay, really defending the rim in a big way, able to defend out to the perimeter at times. He's been very solid on both sides of the ball, and it's really helped that bench unit because, again, we've seen much of this year that bench unit struggle mightily on both sides of the floor. They're getting beat all over the place by whoever you throw on the other team, whoever you guard with. They were getting beat consistently, getting beat on outside shots. They weren't closing out well. They were getting destroyed in the paint, But now with Thon Maker there, it looks like the spacing has helped on both offense and defense, and he's able to do a lot more and he's just kind of made it easier for everybody else out there.
Yeah.
So Thon Maker's energy has really rubbed off on that bench unit on both sides of the basketball, especially for guys like Luke Kennard. So it's really been a nice change of pace.
Now, I do want to get to what seems like has been the focal point of this recent success, and that's been the play of Andre Drummond. Zach Lowe has even taken notice, and he came on and tweeted that, and this is a quote: "He has probably had months-long stretches with slightly gaudier stats, but Andre Drummond has never played better all-around basketball than he has in the last few weeks."
He's not wrong. I mean, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, it might have been 3. We saw Andre Drummond have, almost 70 double-doubles. So those were the gaudy stats he's referring to.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you right now, the stretch of 9 games I've watched Andre Drummond play.
And Moses Malone triple-doubles, he's been
right.
coming up and all that.
And the last 9 games that I've watched Andre Drummond play basketball, this is the best basketball I've seen him play in his career.
It's the smartest.
Oh, absolutely. I've got numbers to back it up too.
Yeah.
And there's, you may say that, the statistics don't say that. Well, I got actual statistics here that do. They break it down a little bit further on how effective he's truly been. Let me give you his numbers from this year through the first 44 games first.
Hit me.
And then I'll give you the numbers of his last 9. Small sample size, but it's something. Through the first 44 games, Drummond's true shooting percentage was 51%. That's terrible, especially for a man who doesn't have any kind of range. And then another statistic was of his field goals, he was only assisted on 51% of them. Very low number for a guy who plays inside the paint, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's where he generates all of his offense. And he's not a ball handler, so he's supposed to be getting balls inside to make things happen. So obviously he was in a situation where he was having to create his own shot on a lot of different plays, and it overcomplicated things for him, in which I'll honestly tell you affected his true shooting percentage in a major way. So switching over to the last 9 games here, one thing that's really stuck out to me is his ability to convert at the free throw line. He's been converting at a 71% clip from the free throw line in the last 9 games, which is a far cry improvement from what he had a couple of years ago with the 38% from the line. So much improvement there. Adding to that, his true shooting percentage over the last 9 games, his 68.8%. So we're talking almost 70% here, which, again, through the first 44 games, it was 51%. So we're talking an 17.8% increase here. That's a big time uptick. He's taken about 14 shots per game. 11 of those 14 have been within 5 feet, and of those shots within 5 feet, he's making nearly 78% of them, which is very upper level status if you inside 5 feet. There's no question about that. You can really tell what's been a big reason for a lot of this is Dwayne Casey coaching the team and coaching Drummond in particular, but also coaching the ball handlers not to throw him passes away from the rim. We saw him away from the rim way too much and trying to create opportunities for himself with the ball in his hands that created a lot of those hook shots that he's not comfortable doing, or doing something with the basketball that he's not able to do as effectively. Dwayne Casey has really coached his guys to stay away from that. Don't throw him the basketball away from the rim. If he's got position inside, give him the ball.
It's back to the bread and butter of the kind of offense he used to run with Drummond back in the early Van Gundy days, and even before that, which they used to love to use Drummond in the pick and rolls, and it was very effective with him. And now they're finally getting back to that. But now we're seeing an improved Drummond on these pick and rolls, so he's been able to do more with it. Right?
We're seeing a big time simplification of Drummond's game in particular, and I talked about how much this offense has been simplified just from the bench unit and from everybody else being, the spacing on the floor, allowing them to simplify the game, running more pick and rolls, which are very simple, bread and butter type plays. Drummond is a big time beneficiary of simplifying the game on the offensive side of the ball. And another statistic here, he's also been assisted on 64.3% of his field goals in the last 9 games, which is an increase of 13.3% from the first 44. So clearly, very obviously, the pick and roll and getting the ball inside and staying inside and getting the ball around the rim has really, really helped him a lot in pretty much every facet. I mean, the guy's numbers the last 9 games have been borderline ridiculous. He's just had a very solid stretch that has a lot to do with the fact that he's not trying to do too much now.
And I don't know if you've noticed, because this isn't something that Van Gundy used to run with Drummond. The type of pick and roll that they're running, they're bringing in a third man on the pick. So it's not your standard just someone sets a pick for the ball handler and the guy that's saying the pick rolls. No, someone sets a pick for the ball handler and then that guy rolls to the rim and a third person comes in and sets a pick for the roller. And that's how Drummond's been getting to within 5 feet of the rim every single time. He has been getting assisted on these picks, and it's worked tremendously. And I commend Casey for seeing. Oh,
absolutely. He's seen something that he can, something easy and simple. That's kind of the key word of this week is simple.
Yeah.
He's seen something that is easy to do, and he said, "Look, this is going to work because of the abilities that we have now with the guys that we've added into this rotation to be able to run an offense in an effective one, and bringing the third guy into the pick and roll to really open things up has been a big time bonus." To give you the exact numbers that Drummond has put up in the last 9 games, he's averaging 22.8 points, 15.7 rebounds, 1.9 blocks, and 2 steals a game while shooting 67% from the field.
Wow.
And obviously that also the 71% from the free throw line. Good for a true shooting percentage of 68.8. Those numbers are ridiculous, if you ask me. Like those are big boy numbers right there, and they're one of the things we've always talked about with Andre Drummond. One of the problems we've had, especially throughout this year, is yes, he's been getting his double doubles, his Moses Malone triple doubles. These are real numbers. We've always had problems with him having those empty numbers, those big time games that come in losses, or those big time games that he really didn't play as well as the numbers dictate. These numbers, you can honestly say that they may not even tell the true tale of how well he's playing
because
right
they're actually
now.
Translating to some tangible form of success.
Yes,
rather than
and on both sides of the floor.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of. I'll be honest with you. I'm not the biggest fan of Andre Drummond's defense. However, this last stretch or so, he's been one of the best inside defenders. This is the best defense I've seen him play ever. He's very solid inside on defense. He's a true rim protector.
Not just that, as far as forcing turnovers, right now over this stretch of games, he's second in the league in blocks, 5th in steals, and when you combine blocks and steals, he leads the league.
Absolutely. He's been one of the best interior defenders that in the league over this small stretch, and it's really encouraging to see that because a guy with that kind of athleticism at 6'11" and his size and ability, that's what you need from a guy like that. That is your mainstay inside, and we're finally getting to see that. He's one of the best at forcing turnovers and getting his hand in the passing lane, and we're finally getting to see it happen in the opportunities that he's taking. He's using his head defensively, which is something that we've not seen enough of, and that I feel like Dwayne Casey's finally getting through to him. And honestly, for this team's success of how the roster is laid out, Dwayne Casey was the best thing that could have happened to him. Absolutely, because he is one of the better coaches in the league, and he's coached these guys up to really focus. I think that was something that the Pistons had an issue with under Stan Van Gundy was focus.
Yeah.
And we've finally seen an improvement from everybody, whether it be Kennard, whether it be Reggie Jackson, who's played up very taken his game to another level in the last in the last month or so, whether it be Langston Galloway finally figuring it out, and especially Andre Drummond. The level of focus seems so much higher than what we have seen in the past from this basketball team, and that's something to look forward to. And I know we've been talking throughout this entire, through all the other episodes we've done on this podcast about how we want this team to tank, how we want to see them, just trade everybody away. And just build up with assets, grab draft capital, things like that, young players, and just bottom out to build up. We're obviously not going to get that, so there's only one page to turn here, and that's to move forward. I want the Pistons in a 5 seed. I want the Pistons in a 6 seed. I don't think we'll get the 5. I don't think it's possible, but I want the Pistons in a 6 seed. They're a game and a half back. I mean, they've got a game and a half lead over Charlotte on the 7. And they've got a game, and they're game and a half back of Brooklyn on the 6.
Yeah.
So it's possible, and then it's looking even more possible they could end up playing Indiana in the first round of the playoffs, which one would be extremely physical and fun, and 2. They beat them the other night.
That's what I want to get to. Is our most recent game was against the Pacers. the game wasn't as close as the final score indicated.
No.
But Pacers did scare me with that late run, that late rally they had. But this is a potential playoff opponent and one that we've talked about wanting to see if we were to get the proper seeding. But do you think this game is at all indicative of how the Pistons could perform if they get to match up with the Pacers in the playoffs?
Man, that's a tough question because it's one game in the regular season.
It's one game.
On a team that's clearly banged up.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't have Victor Oladipo, and they won't have him at all.
All I'm asking, and they won't have him for the playoffs.
Right.
But all I'm asking is, does this tell you the Pistons can play close to the Pacers, or do you think that if we match up with the Pacers,
I don't think the Pacers are that good without Victor Oladipo to begin with. I don't think Pacers are that good of a basketball team anymore. I think they've been lucky, they've been fortunate to hold on to the spot that they have. I don't think they're holding on to it for very long. So I don't think the Pacers are that great of a team any longer. They've been able to play well above what I would expect them to. I'll just say that. So, do I think that they're still better than the Pistons? Yeah, probably. But do I think the Pistons can go into a 7-game series with them and be truly competitive? Absolutely, I do.
Okay.
And we saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of that the other night with how well the Pistons played in that game against them. And that's without Reggie Jackson having a fantastic game. That's without Blake Griffin putting up 30 points. Granted, he had a triple-double, but he didn't score 30. That's with guys playing their roles effectively and doing what they need to do on both sides of the floor. I mean, I think I saw a statistic that the Pistons are like 5th or 6th in the league on offense and like 4th on defense in their stretch of the last 9. Like two top 10 statistics that
are we selling the Warriors? Are we the new Warriors?
That I don't even think the Warriors have been playing that well. Like I don't know, but we're seeing a stretch of Pistons basketball that we honestly God haven't seen since the Going to Work crew was here.
Yeah.
And it's happening on both sides of the floor. So like I said, when we've been talking all along on this show, on this podcast, how we don't want them to succeed, how we want them to just bottom out. We're not getting that. I'm willing to turn the page. The team was obviously willing to stick to their guns, so I'm willing to buy on, jump on board, and hope for the best with this basketball team. I hope.
Yeah, we know the choice now. I mean,
exactly. I hope we get the Pacers in the first round, and I hope we beat them in 6 or 7. I hope we go to the second round. I don't think we get beyond that. I don't think the team's good enough. And you're going to end up running into one of the big 4 in the East, which at that point, you had a good year at that point. Honestly, it would be a miracle on hardwood at that point if you managed to pull out a 7-game series against one of those 4 teams.
It's like standing in line for a roller coaster you don't want to go on. You spend your whole time trying to find your way to get out of it, and then once
no turning back.
Once you're strapped in on the roller coaster, well, I might as well just hope I have fun now.
Exactly. And I'm along for the ride, and I'm going to enjoy it because honestly, this is the most fun I've had watching the Pistons play since like 2008, to be honest with you. It's been a long time. I'm a starving Pistons fan here.
Last time I think the last time I really enjoyed watching the Pistons was the first few games of AI before I realized how trash it was going to be when he was here. I was just like super excited to have AI on the team, and I was like,
that was pretty rough. That's honestly, I was reading something on Twitter the other day where it was just one of those random posts of pick a guy that never. It was. Show me a guy that in a jersey that he never should have been in. I mean, there was Dwayne Wade with Cleveland and Dwayne Wade with Chicago, and a lot of LeBron with the Lakers is thrown out there. I thought that was funny. But one of them, a lot of the ones I saw was AI in a Pistons uniform, and I was like, honestly, yeah.
We've had a lot of superstars. We've had T-Mac in a Pistons uniform.
Well, when they're like 107.
We've had C-Web in a Pistons uniform.
Well, C-Web was actually fairly successful in a Pistons uniform. Let's not go that far. We're talking the guys who were not successful, like AI, like T-Mac, for example. I mean,
I went to the one game that team put up like 20 points, and he had an alley-oop that game. I went nuts.
That was probably the highest he's jumped in like 3 years.
It was. T-Mac and AI used to be my 2 favorite players back in the day.
I used to love watching them play back. I used to love but hate Allen Iverson. Because he honest to God, I swear, whenever he played the Pistons, put up 100 points, and they couldn't. They had no answer. They had no answer for the answer. So it was awful watching him play as a Pistons fan against the Pistons, but it was so fun to watch him play. It was awesome. It was awesome watching the little man just school everybody on the floor. It was great.
So, obviously, the Pistons aren't going to win 88% of the games for the next 23 games.
They're not.
But what are your expectations for the Pistons down the stretch? Do you expect them to maybe finish out in a 60% clip. For
I
example,
want this
65%.
team. That's asking a little much, but I want this team to be above 500 the rest of the way.
I agree.
I want them to be 2-3 games above 500, finish the year maybe 2-3 games above 500 because they're what
one game
below.
Yeah, not half a game.
I want to see
29-30.
them.
So
I want to see them finish the year with 45 wins.
yeah,
Get them 2-3 games above 500. Get them in a spot where, they guarantee a decent enough playoff spot, maybe a 6 or 7 seed. Just to have some excitement in the arena, put some asses in the seats. That's all I ask for. I understand that ticket prices are horrible for a team that truly isn't that successful and really has no bright future as of right now because it's a lot of year by year basis. But at the same time, the way that the Pistons are playing right now, it's at least exciting to go watch this team. Going down there, it would be fun to watch the team play the way they have been. Do I expect this level of play to continue at the echelon that it's at? No, that's really kind of unsustainable for this club.
Yeah.
However, I still expect good basketball. They've got talent on this team. Blake Griffin's one of the top 25 players in the league. Andre Drummond is really stepping up his game to where if he plays the way he has been over the last 9, you can make the argument for him as well.
Yeah.
Do I think he is right now? No, but could he get there eventually? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Reggie Jackson's really trying to put a stamp on it as well. And they finally got some shooting too, for God's sakes. But it's exciting to watch this basketball team right now, and that's why I'm saying enjoy the ride while it's here. So yes, I do have some expectations for this team the rest of the way. It's a few games above 500 the rest of the way. Put your spot. My goal for them is to get the 6th seed. That is my goal for them.
That's what I was about to ask about next. So where we currently stand, our playoff chances are sitting at 86.7%. So just about 87%.
They're making the playoffs. I'll tell unless someone gets hurt, they're making the playoffs.
My ask here is, how optimistic are you now? Because things have clearly changed since last time we were on. How optimistic are you now about the Pistons' 6 seed chances? We are 1.5 games behind the Nets. You still have a top 10.
How many games we got left? Like
schedule.
22?
22?
I think 22 games, 23 games.
I think 23.
Fairly optimistic. I mean, what's the Nets' strength of schedule? Can you pull that up for me? They're 10th?
Yeah.
In terms of toughest or
10th
easiest?
Toughest schedule. We're 3rd easiest, I want to say, something like that.
I think 2nd or 3rd easiest, yeah. Which, again, I talked about. A lot of things can change that. There's a lot of factors put into that. But
do you think we can gain
I'm
1.5
hopeful.
games? Because remember, Nets have lost Dinwiddie maybe for the year now.
yeah, I am hopeful. I don't know that
But now
truly
Joe Harris has kind of had like a
Well, I mean, the guy's
hot
been
streak.
lights out from 3 from the beginning of the year.
yeah,
so.
and now they're realizing after one of the 3-point contest, they're utilizing him more now.
Yeah.
I think part of that is Dinwiddie being.
I
out,
will
but-
say I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I can't. I stopped short of expect them to hit that 6th seed because again they've still got to cover the game and a half.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of there's still some ground to cover there, and Brooklyn's a good basketball team. There's no question about that. So it's
That feels
tough for
weird
me
to
to say that I expect. I know, right? It's tough for me to say I expect them to hit that 6th seed, but I am hopeful that they can get it done.
Yeah. Okay. With that being said,
That actually covered the one topic I wanted to get into is with the Pistons at the 7th seed.
Yeah.
How do we feel about them the rest of the year? So I'm kind of glad we touched on that.
so with that being said, I do want to get to one more little thing before we close this out. Fun little Twitter exchange happened this morning between.
It was this afternoon. It was. I was kind of following along with it.
between Vince Ellis of Detroit Free Press and friend of the show Steve Hinson.
Friend of the
liberally
show.
calling him friend of the show. But basically, what had happened was Steve Hinson went on Twitter, and this was during the Pistons' last game against the Pacers, and said that we've seen hot garbage Andre for like a 6-minute stretch.
It was like a 9-minute stretch at the opening, like 9 to 10 minute stretch of the third quarter, where Drummond truly played like hot garbage. It's a true statement.
And Vince Ellis said that Vince Ellis took issue with the term hot garbage Andre.
Yes.
And I guess wanted Steve to use lighter terms like played poorly.
The initial tweet didn't come from Steve Hinson. It came from another fan that was just on Twitter, and Vince Ellis went after the fan. And Steve Hinson kind of, I'll be honest with you, Vince Ellis straight up looked like Andre Drummond's personal white knight. I'll be straight up honest with you. And I got a lot of respect for Vince Ellis. He does great work for the free press.
I respect both these guys.
Absolutely, for the free press. But he honestly got to look like Andre Drummond's white knight on the internet at that point in time. It was very entertaining. But he just kind of I can't really say took offense, but didn't like the use of wordage there by basically saying a guy plays poorly for 10 minutes and gets called and gets attacked like that. And the exchange back and forth is basically saying, do you really consider one guy on his phone a personal attack at a player? And I kind of agreed with him there that one guy, I mean, I could go and say that Giannis Antetokounmpo is playing hot garbage right now because he can't shoot the ball. Well, I mean, actually, no, he's honestly, not even arguably anymore for me. He's the MVP. So I can't really say he's hot garbage, can I? It's just one guy saying something. And, let's just say those 10 minutes to start the third quarter were not Andre Drummond's best basketball. They were pretty bad.
Yeah. It's like we've all seen like a stretch, like we've seen like on Shaq and the Fool, you'll see a stretch like 3 plays sometimes.
Right.
And you can be
hell, I believe it was Klay Thompson missed a wide open layup yesterday.
I've seen a 6-year-old play our basketball on that. Are we being too critical, or we know the guys can play? It's just
I also think it was a little bit of like the Twitter warrior thing where you come on, you put out a hot statement and it's fun, you have a little fun with it. Fine, sure, dandy. There's no need to take offense to that though. But
at the end, it didn't seem like there were too hard of feelings.
No, there was no hard feelings there. Hey, a lot of respect for Steve Hinson. I did not know he ran the Boston Marathon.
Yeah,
that's impressive. But it was an entertaining back and forth. And again, I got a lot of respect for both those guys. They do some great work for, Steve Hinson for the Detroit Bad Boys and Vince Ellis for the Detroit Free Press. I actually, the numbers I gave earlier about Andre Drummond came from Vince Ellis from the Freak. So, it was just entertaining to see the two go back and forth.
It's too bad for Steve because he's saying that like now all morning I've been getting, why are you so mean to Andre tweets?
Oh man, I will say one thing I've noticed, which is weird for hashtag NBA Twitter and hashtag Pistons Twitter, is there's been a lot of people coming to Andre Drummond's defense lately. Yeah. Like there's been, I've seen nothing like in all my, in all the time that
he's been making waves.
Well, in the couple of years we've been doing our show, our live show, www.twitch.tv/The Fan Report. Check it out. Nice little shameless plug. But in all the years, in the years we've been doing our show, like I follow NBA Twitter and Pistons Twitter pretty closely. Yeah. I like to think I do at least, and I see nothing but trash on Drummond. Like I see nothing but people saying, guy puts up empty numbers, guy's trash, guy can't make a shot, guy sucks at free throws, guy can't shoot outside 3 feet. Ben Simmons is a better shooter than Andre Drummond. Hot take,
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a yes. But like lately, I've seen nothing but everybody, and I mean everybody, not even just Pistons fans, but everybody come to his defense and say that this guy is playing the best basketball I've ever seen him play, which is true. It's true. Guy's playing amazingly.
I mean, he's played well enough to get Zach Lowe's attention. I mean,
and that's a pretty big name guy. That's no small fry. Like that's a big name. But like I said, it's fun to watch Pistons Twitter be alive. That's one thing that I've had struggles with seeing is Pistons Twitter has always been there, but it's never really been as alive as it is now. At least not, for many, many years. And it's
Pistons
really exciting.
Reddit is slowly started to resemble Lions Reddit in terms of misery. But
oh man, I will say the Lions Reddit's some of the funniest stuff on the internet, man.
Oh yeah,
Lions Reddit's a lot of fun, but it's fun to see fans get engaged with each other. And I love how transparent, I guess is not really the word I'm looking for, but I love how interactive the press, the Pistons press, Detroit Bad Boys and the Detroit Bad Boys of the world and the Steve Hinsons who writes for Detroit Bad Boys and the Vince Ellises of the world from Freep and and Rod Beards of the world and how interactive they are with the fan base on Twitter and how I can just tweet out at them and they'll reply back, or I'll have a hot take and they'll shut me down big time. But I like that. I love how, I like how they appreciate the fans and appreciate the people that, allow them to have the platform that they have.
Absolutely.
And give them the time of day.
Yeah.
It's tough to find a media market, a sports media market, where you get that same type of interaction. And it's something that granted, I may be talking totally out of my ass here, but it's something that I truly think is special to Detroit. And I'm sure there's other cities that have it as well, but it truly is special to Detroit that we have the media that we have here. Yes, it's the Legion of Doom, as Jim Caldwell would call it. Yes, we're very tough on our teams. Yes, we one person does some Dungeon of Doom, Legion of Doom, whatever you want to call it. Yes, they're very tough, but at the same time, they're also fair in a lot of ways, and they also will come to the side and come to the defense of the players and coaches as well, especially with this Pistons team. I've seen it a lot, almost to a fault sometimes, but I like the Detroit sports media. I do, and that's really tough to say coming from a fan of of a sports market when a lot of cities really don't like their sports media. So can't complain about that. But so big props to them. Big props to the guys in there and girls. Big props to the guys and girls in there. But anything else to add? I mean,
feel free to hit us up on Twitter. We'll talk to you too.
Oh yeah, I love. There's nothing I love more than a nice Twitter debate.
Let us. I know you. Let us know what you thought about today's show, and if you got anything you want to add or anything you want to debate us on, we're always on. So.
Oh, absolutely. But anyways, guys, that is gonna kind of close it out for this week's episode. We appreciate you guys listening again. As I so shamelessly plugged earlier, check out our live show, www.twitch.tv/thefan-report. We go live every Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time, where we kind of take more of national spectrum, but we do always keep it real with Detroit. So. But anyways, Andrew, thank you.
For example, we'll be talking about LeBron in our next show. So
yes, we will, and whether or not he's a distraction. But anyways, Andrew, thank you for joining me, and thank you guys for listening. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week, and hit us up on Twitter at Real Fan Report, and definitely give at Detroit Podcast, the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, a big follow as well, and check out all the other shows in there on that network because there's a lot of good stuff there. So. And guys, we thank you. This has been the Fan Reporters by fans.
For fans.
Thank you guys again, and we'll see you next week.
Peace out.